The American Civil Liberties Union of Oklahoma is calling for an independent investigation and the resignation of Tulsa County Sheriff Stanley Glanz following the killing of a criminal suspect by a reserve deputy sheriff. The April 2nd shooting is also garnering national attention, raising questions about the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office, the training of volunteer law officers, and the reserve deputy program.
We will defend this in the court of law.
73-year-old Robert Bates was released on bond after turning himself in on charges of second-degree manslaughter. The crime he's charged with was videotaped by law enforcement during an undercover sting carried out by the Tulsa County Sheriff's Department. The video first shows Eric Harris, a convicted felon, handing over a gun to a deputy in an alleged illegal sale.
That's it. Sweet, that's a nice gun, man.
After the weapon is handed off, Harris runs from the vehicle as task force officers show up to arrest him. Following a foot chase, deputies tackle Harris, and you can hear the words, "Taser, taser," then this. Investigators say those are the words of Reserve Deputy Bates. When Harris realizes he's wounded and says he can't breathe, an arresting deputy says this.
My breath. Your breath.
Harris was pronounced dead after being transported by ambulance to a hospital. Andre Harris is the deceased man's brother.
It's awful hard, without me getting emotional, to really understand how he felt laying there with a knee to your head, people sprawling you out, a 74-year-old man coming, boom, gun you down, and he's hollering out for help, and there's no aid. You see the blood running out his side.
Andre Harris has hired a law firm to investigate what happened. The Tulsa County Sheriff's Office is defending the actions of its officers, saying they were involved in a tragic accident. Tulsa County Sheriff Stanley Glanz asked Tulsa police officer Jim Clark to conduct an independent investigation. Clark says Bates mistakenly used his pistol instead of his taser.
Reserve Deputy Bates did not commit a crime. Reserve Deputy Bates was a victim, a true victim of slips and capture.
Clark says slips and capture is a scientific phenomenon whereby the mind is tricked during a stressful situation.
These are mistakes that are made when you think you're doing one thing, but you actually are doing another, and the result often is directly opposite of what you intended. In effect, your intended behavior slips off the path that you wanted to go because it is captured by a stronger response and sent to a different direction.
Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union of Oklahoma, Ryan Kiesel, questions Bates being involved in the undercover operation.
We fully recognize that there are many legitimate uses for reserve officers and for volunteers that want to serve their community, but on a violent crimes task force, that's just reckless. I think it's just reckless to put someone other than a full-time professional law enforcement officer on a type of task force like this where something could go terribly wrong, and it did in this instance, and Eric Harris lost his life as a result.
Bates is a friend of Sheriff Glanz and headed up the sheriff's last election campaign. A retired insurance executive, Bates has also contributed thousands of dollars worth of vehicles and equipment to the sheriff's department and to Sheriff Glanz's campaign.
These buy-a-badge programs where you're able to essentially get your way into a police department and earn a position of authority because of your donations and friendship has to come to an end.
Attorney Dan Smolin represents the Harris family.
This case, and it's really not even a case, this just horrible situation, is going to be about what a corrupt sheriff's office does after a bad shooting.
But Clark says the public should know that Harris had a violent record and that Bates and the other deputies assumed Harris was armed at the time of his arrest.
Well, we had another problem that factored in that the deputies were unaware of. Mr. Harris was under the influence of PCP.
I'm sorry, did you have the toxicology report back?
No, we have his admission to 2 IMSA medics. They asked him what he had taken, and he said he had used PCP before this event took place. And that helps with the explanation of why the struggle was so intense.
Smolin says official records do not support the PCP claim.
PCP is a narcotic that's been used to taint the viewpoint of the world with respect to African American males. It creates the idea that this was some superhuman, all these officers, however many there were, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them, were in danger.
More questions are being raised by the Tulsa World. The newspaper reports that supervisors at the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office were ordered to falsify the training records of Reserve Deputy Bates. The Tulsa World also reports the supervisors were transferred after refusing to give Bates credit for training he never took and firearm certifications he should not have received. Sheriff Stanley Glanz has declined several interview requests, but his office is disputing the World's report and says the department is conducting an internal review.